Dear liberal friends out of Sweden, my name is Bart and I'm mayor of Mechelen. Mechelen is a city in Belgium situated 25 kilometers north of Brussels. It's a very diverse city. 86,000 inhabitants, 1 out of 2 kids born in Mechelen have a foreign background. We have 138 different nationalities. 20% of the people living in Mechelen are Muslims, and we are doing quite well. Our city, you can say, is a little bit a success story. 15 years ago, it was a city in despair. And then the first liberal mayor in more than 100 years came into power. And we tried to change the city into a prosperous place. And we did it with liberal recipes. And I can give you a few examples. First of all, we tackled the problem of insecurity. Because I believe that in a diverse city, you need common rules. And you need respect for those common rules. Because without those common rules, you don't have the rule of law, but you have the rule of the jungle. And people become angry. Angry at the politicians, angry on democracy, but also angry on the other people in town. The migrants, people with another background, because they want to find somebody who is responsible for all that goes wrong. So creating a safe city and a clean city is the first thing you need to open the minds for people for more diversity. And we did that. And we fighted crime not as an instrument for polarization, not by blaming and shaming groups in society, but on the contrary, as an instrument that brings people together, as a common cause. Because I try to explain that a secure city is also a very social city. The first victims of criminality live in the poor neighborhoods of town. So fighting for more security is fighting for a more equal city. And we did it by mobilizing people in every neighborhood of town. A second thing I did was fighting for an inclusive city, where everybody is seen as a real citizen of town. We tried to recruit the citizens of Mechelen before extremists could do it. And we recruited them for democracy, for an open society, by treating them correct, by not see them as a second-class citizens, but as part of our new reality. In a certain way, we all integrated in that more diverse Mechelen that there is today. And it asks efforts of everybody. A little bit like John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what the others can do for Mechelen, but also ask yourself what you can do to make a success of diversity. One of the things we put central in our approach is fighting segregation. Because when people live in a segregated city, the problems will start. First of all, we will make caricatures of each other. We make a kind of one identity of people. We forget that people have different identities. We try to point them on one identity, and then that identity becomes often a caricature. The Muslim, the Belgian, the guy from Morocco. We have so many different identities, and if you see that reality, then you can build up one community. And how do you do that? By creating mixed neighborhoods, creating mixed schools, creating in your administration a mixed composition of people. Young, old, people with a migrant background, without a migrant background, and you let them work together. I see my city, and that's a liberal approach, not as a city of communities, but as a city of citizens. When I have a problem with somebody, I will not speak to him as a Muslim, I will speak to him as a citizen of Mechelen. You know, people who love segregation are people who are sick of group thinking. They reduce people to one identity, and then they give a kind of normative content to it. They start describing what it means to be Swedish, to be Belgian, to be Moroccan, or whatever, to be Muslim. That's a dangerous path. There's a threat for our freedom. I want to decide who I am. I want to decide for myself what my identity or identities are. And I don't like the idea that the government or other people will define who I have to be. So that openness, keep that in mind. Fight for that openness. And at the same time, fight those ghettos. Colored ghettos, but also white ghettos. Bring people together. bring people in the real life from others with a different background. Then diversity becomes something positive. Last thing we have to do, we have to defend our freedom rights. A society in diversity cannot function if we don't have some common rules. The fundamental values of our society, the equality of men and women, the freedom of speech, the idea that the rule of law is much more important than rules or laws out of a holy book. We have to protect that. We may never give in on those fundamental principles. But at the same time, we may not make the mistake of defining those fundamental principles in a very broad way, creating from every tradition, from every habit, a fundamental value. Because if we do that, again, we destroy our society. Because our society is based on freedom. We liberals know that. And if you say a free society, then you say discussion, then you say change. And during time, our habits and traditions have always changed. If they are not compatible with our fundamental values, we have to change our habits. We did it with women's emancipation. We changed our traditions. Because women have the same rights as men. They has to be able to go to work, to vote, to represent us in a democracy. 100 years ago, 50 years ago, it was not so common. Women had to fight for it, against the traditions of that time. And time after time again, you see groups standing up in our society, fighting for an equal position in society, not against our fundamental values, but on the basis of our fundamental values. The gay marriage is another example. In my country, it was a big discussion because it was against the traditions. But we liberals fought for it. And now people have the possibility to marry, to have kids, even if they have, if they can marry with people from the same sex. And there's no discussion about it anymore. Is it so strange that now in our society, people stand up and say, oh, we are born here, we are raised here, we're part of this society. But we also want to have a real place in this society. Liberals understand that. They know that creating more freedom is not taking freedom away from others. It's not a zero-sum reasoning. That approach, that open approach, that embraces diversity on the basis of common values in a secure city has done a lot of good in my town. You know, 15 years ago, 1 out of 3 citizens voted for an extreme right political party. Now only 7%. 15 years ago, the citizens of my city felt very insecure. Today, the security rate in my town is the highest in Belgium. 15 years ago, there was a lot of distrust in local government. Today, there's no city in Belgium where trust in local government is as high as in my town. In a certain way, with our liberal approach, we made from Mechelen a beacon of hope. We show that it is possible to live together. And Mechelen is no paradise. We have our problems, we still have our criminality, we still have a little bit ghettos also. But we work on it every day again with new creative solutions. And you know, only liberals can succeed. Dear liberal friends in Sweden, we have elections the 14th of October, local elections. And we have the ambition to win them. And I know you have elections in September. And I know you also have the ambition to win them. And I'm sure you will do, because Sweden needs more liberalism. Lycka till!